Welcome. Welcome. Welcome.
All right. So those of you who are audio only, you missed something. So that's all I'm saying.
Wait till the YouTube stream. I'm literally like, is that? Oh my God, Derek, you are fucking hilarious. Welcome.
Better than the drill.
Episode 91 of this program called Canadian AF. Canadian as fuck.
We're 9 away.
Canadian as fuck right here on Revolution Radio Canada. You're absolutely right, my friend. We are 9 short episodes, including this one, because Dimitri will not let you say that this one is in the can, because he will say we're currently doing it. So it's not
currently in the can.
I literally I tried my best Dimitri impersonation. I don't know if it worked because he didn't laugh.
That was a Dimitri impersonation?
That was a Dimitri impersonation.
Well, you forgot the tagline.
Right, got it. Okay, so we are.
He's not going to do now. Anyway, go ahead. No.
All right, so I don't even know what tagline you're talking about.
So anyway,
what tagline are you talking? No, seriously, what? I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's Dimitri's tagline.
What? Oh, I suppose.
Anyway.
Oh, so anyway, got it. Okay, all right. So
have
anyway,
you listened to any of these shows?
No.
Anyway.
So anyway. We have a special guest all the way from Alberta. He's hanging out with us tonight, and we couldn't be happier. Our friend Beth reached out to us and was, like, hey, listen, we got this really cool cat. Would you guys?
Beth from
Red Umbrella?
Thank you.
Yes, right.
What's the story?
So basically, she's like,
she's from What's the Story?
Yeah. What's the story? Oh shit! I'm sorry. I keep getting all of these.
But Charlotte at Red Umbrella is going to be really happy that you mentioned her.
Oh, okay. Okay. Shit.
So
Charlotte actually got us a couple of people. Shut up, Derek. So anyway, I'm looking at my email and Red Umbrella is at the top. I'm so sorry. Anyway, what's the story? I love you, Beth. You're freaking awesome. We're gonna do a massive shout out. I'm sorry, JJ. When we actually post this, when we post this on YouTube, I'm actually gonna put thanks to JJ Shiplett, and then I'm gonna be like, Beth, what's the story? In like 82 font. Anyway, it's all good. So I might even just erase this whole section that we've done here. Derek's gonna say, don't you dare.
Welcome to Canadian as fuck.
This is live radio, my friends. It's a live podcast here, Canadian as fuck, that we do each and every Monday night. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for being here. We have got JJ hanging out with us tonight. This is going to be a freaking blast. So, Dimitri, please, if you will.
Thanks for joining us today, JJ Shiplett. We'll start by saying Canadian as fuck would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we're on today. While we meet tonight on a virtual platform, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands we call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations, to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and cultures, and to try to move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration.
Thank you, brother. Much appreciated. Going to get things going here with our man, JJ Shiplett. He is... Did you grow up in Edmonton? Is that my understanding?
No, I grew up in Brandon, Manitoba, and in Whitby, Ontario.
Whitby, Ontario.
Well, a good old Ontario boy. So that's why you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, got it.
I was wondering about that.
Like, why are you not a Calgary Flames fan or an Edmonton fan? But anyway, okay, so
or a Jets fan.
There he is, right on. Hey, leave it on. You can leave it on the whole. Leave it on the whole episode if you.
No, I'm not giving them any free advertising.
Yeah, good for you.
Okay, they got enough money.
Yeah. What is it? What is it now? $70 for a fucking jersey?
Oh God!
I bet you it's more than that now.
Oh, dude, way higher than that.
Yeah,
it's over 100.
It's close to 200. It's close to 200, really,
for a jersey.
By the time I have a I have a Sundin jersey, and I think it's probably about $120 or something like that. So
way more.
My best jersey that I have is a 1994 because it's Gilmour with the C. I got it's my favorite jersey that I love to wear, but it's when he was captain, so. Of course. That's my favorite Leaf jersey.
I have at least 6 Leaf jersey.
I have none of these things.
Seriously?
Not a fucking stitch.
We know, Derek.
I've never seen a hockey game.
I have a Potvin jersey, a Luke Shen jersey, a Kadri jersey, and a James Reimer jersey signed by James Reimer, Nazem Kadri, Richard Panik, because he was right there, and Morgan Riley. I have a Morgan Riley jersey, and I have a Mitch Marner jersey, and I have an Austin Matthews jersey, but that's a Toronto Arenas one.
So,
yeah.
And clearly a problem.
Yes.
Though, I would say this, like, when over the past 10 years, it's been a little bit different, but like when I was growing up, nobody had Leaf jerseys. Like, it was like everybody had a Sundin jersey, maybe that was it. But then there was a good 10 years, 12 years of just nothing good to cheer for the team.
Yeah.
No jersey that you really wanted to buy.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's James Reimer was a nice guy and all, but like that team was pretty brutal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I don't think you would see too many, what was his name? Number 3, old Calgary defenseman. Phaneuf, right. Thank you. You wouldn't see too many Phaneuf jerseys, right?
Scott Bell had a Phaneuf. Scott Bell had a bunch of Phaneuf jerseys.
But we are talking about Scott Bell here. Okay, so
anyway,
if Scott was here, he'd be laughing his ass off. He actually lives in Edmonton, our friend Scott. So, okay, we got to get.
Can we talk about music now?
Friend. Yeah, let's please talk about music. Absolutely. So
because I can't join in on the other thing.
JJ, wondering if you could do us a favor, my friend. Could you give us just sort of like the broad strokes as far as how you got your start? Did it happen for you either in Alberta or in Ontario or both?
Well, it all started for me on Saturday nights about 7 p.m. watching Leaf games.
Back here again.
Good for you, JJ. Tell Derek to fuck off.
I thought maybe we could talk a little more Leafs hockey.
We can if you want.
Derek, come back.
No, I grew up in a musical household. My dad played guitar and sang, and my mom played some piano. And so the arts were always like really, really, really encouraged in our household growing up. If I ever wanted to take any type of music lesson I wanted to take, basically my parents would put me in. If I wanted to play hockey, it was like, well, when is the time? It's really expensive. The arts were a pretty big focus in our house. Mm-hmm. And then ultimately my sister, I have an older sister who I'm really close with. And some of my like most fondest musical memories are of her singing. She would sit at our family piano and she would just sing songs for hours.
That's awesome.
At full voice. And I would be somewhere between the ages of 8 to 15, 16 years old. And I always our house was always full of her just with full confidence, just singing out. And so I was always kind of like, it was always encouraged and really pushed in our household. And so, that's kind of how I got started in it. And I never really looked back. I guess I take for granted sometimes that I have lived a life so far where my purpose and my passion has been rather clear for me.
Yeah. From
the get go. I know that not everybody's doesn't have that sort of, I don't know if it's a luxury or whatever, because sometimes it's definitely not a luxury for me. But it's just kind of been no question about it. I was playing music, and that's what I was going to do.
Nice. And how did you get started with guitar? Do you remember how old you were? I would say I'd probably like 6, 7, 8 years old. My uncle had this old guitar that was really shitty, and it needed a new nut on it. And my uncle just used a pencil and carved out and made it his own little nut for it. And that was kind of like the first guitar I ever had. And then my dad was a guitar player, so I was pretty much from that point on, it was like, here you go, play this thing.
Right.
Fuck.
So your first guitar was from your uncle and it was a piece of shit, but what was your first, like, legit guitar?
Yeah, the first legit guitar that I had, I mean, I bought a bass guitar. I bought like a Fender Squier jazz bass one time when I was in high school. I played in a band when I was in grade 9 called NSF, Non-Sufficient Funds. And everybody else everybody else was in grade 12, so I was in grade 9. And they needed a bass player, and I somehow got the gig. But the first I have the guitar that I learned how to play guitar on actually was my father's guitar. It's a 1979 Sigma D28, so it's the Martin D20. It's the Sigma equivalent of the Martin D28, and it has a ton of inlay in it.
I have one of those.
It's an absolutely great little guitar. I have guitars that sound much better than it now.
Yeah,
but it holds meaning to me far beyond any other guitar that I have.
Yeah, I just moved, so I'm not going to run and grab it, but I know it's in the house.
That's awesome.
What other instruments did you learn?
I can safely say that I can play the piano, but nobody's gonna. I'm not doing any Royal Conservatory stuff for you here, okay? I'm just chording out some stuff and playing some melody lines.
Yeah.
But like my true love of instruments is the drums. I love drumming.
There you go.
Yeah, I've got a drum set up over here that's all ready to go and mic'd up, and I start my day out with like 15-20 minutes of drumming.
Good for you.
I just find that my temperament changes completely after I do that. Nice. I don't have any grand aspirations with the drums. I think that's one thing that I really love about it, is that I don't assume that I'm a good drummer. I don't want to be considered a good drummer. I just love drumming.
But
nice.
but what drummer are you thinking of when you do that 15-20 minutes of
Lee Von Helm?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I think
damn right you are, my friend.
Yeah. Yep. I think Lee Von Helm. I also do think, because we're on Canadian as fuck, I think that like I think Don Kerr too. I think that Don Kerr is one of the best drummers I've heard rhythmically. Like, he's Jay Belrose. He's got this like real strong groove to him. But he doesn't hit the drums heavy. I don't know if that's a thing. Maybe when he was in the Rio Statics, he hit them hard. But I recently saw him playing with Bahamas, and I had my mind blown by him.
Very nice.
So I love that he's kind of like Canadian royalty. That guy.
Yeah, he is.
So I'm always trying to keep my eye out. That obviously Lee Von Helm he's Lee Von Helm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I love Lee Von Helm the best. He's especially as a singer. Lee Von Helm, like he played the drums like he was a singer, and that's the way I like to approach the drums. I want my fills to be rhythmic alongside and working with the rhythm of my melody lines, not just like another interpretation of a rhythm line in the song.
Fucking awesome, buddy. I could talk to you for ages. My drums are right behind me, so I've got a Yamaha. So what kind of drums do you have?
I got a bit of a Frankenstein kit.
Nice.
I got a Copperphonic on for a snare, and then
Yep.
I actually use 17-inch Ludwig or 17-inch hi-hats, which are just a
You're insane.
Yeah, they're loud. They're real loud.
Yeah.
But it's just I have like this massive Zildjian ride that's from the 60s. But everything's pretty taped up and pretty tight at this point.
Nice.
I'm making up for all of my sonic sort of frequencies in post, because I don't really have a good sounding room here. So I keep everything pretty tight, and then
not with all those pipes over your head. No way.
Awesome. Okay, listen, let's JJ, let's talk about, obviously you just finished talking about Don and of course the late great Lee Von Helm, but let's talk about some of your guitar playing / songwriting / singing kind of influences. If you could go through a bunch, like I would love to hear kind of the stuff that you grew up with, the stuff that essentially inspired you when you were, handed a guitar from your father at, 6, 7, 8 years old, and then like sort of like where you are today.
Yeah. I grew up in, I'll try and not bore you too much, but I grew up in a evangelical Christian household, and in the 90s, and that was a little bit of a scene. And so I although I don't follow those teachings anymore, I'm grateful for the fact that I basically was put on a stage from a pretty young age to play music. And so I started out really like I would play a lot at my church when I was a kid. I spent my summers traveling with these people who were they would go do children's camps and they needed music, and I would go on the road with them. And with another guy named Adam Newcomb, who's still a producer in Canada today, making music. Both of us are still making music. And so I kind of like started out in that zone. Then my father passed away when I was 15, and that's when I really started getting into playing in bands and realizing that I like rock and roll a little bit more. But that was like, and then I just started kind of singing and playing all the time, and I never really looked back at that point.
Right. Because it's interesting that there's so many sort of tie-ins for me now talking to you in regards to being such a Levon Helm fan, because he was very, very spiritual. And I mean, he sang like, he just had that wonderful Southern drawl. But it was from not only like white churches, but black churches. And there was just all of this wonderful spirituality that he had kind of surrounding him. His playing was funkier than like any, like, I mean, literally, you know, I mean, there's a million band songs that we could talk about, obviously. But I think one of the things that I loved so much about Levon was he could just, you know, belt out a tune. And just like you say, play wonderful kind of like licks and all that sort of stuff that were based around what was coming out of his mouth. So it wasn't just boom, bat, boom, bat, like a lot of the things that he would play. I don't think a lot of people would understand. I'm so glad we're fucking talking to you. You're awesome. So like a lot of like what happens is, so when you're a drummer and you are like my father before me, if you're singing something like, you know, the day they drove old Dixie down, right? Or the night they drove old Dixie down. When he plays some of the things that he does, he's and he's playing what he's singing at the same time. So it comes across as a completely different style of playing. And I think that's why so many people revere Levon so much.
Yeah.
And it's
like being in the actual like vortex of the song with your whole being.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask?
He's just absolutely. Sorry, Dimitri. Yep.
But can I ask how you don't see this a lot, like a drummer singing while they're playing? Like you see it occasionally. You'll see Phil Collins occasionally sing a song while he's drumming. Same thing with Don Henley. You know, the guy from Paper Lace. I don't know his name, but it's like, but the thing is, like, I'll ask you and JJ, how hard is it? How much of a challenge is it to sing and play at the same time?
Before you ask them this question, hold on, Dimitri. This is what you're going to do. On your left hand, you are going to count 1, 3. On your right hand, you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Now, with your right foot, you're going to count to 4. Now, with your left foot, you're going to do occasional 6s. Now sing.
Yeah.
Now sing over top of it.
Right.
You know, I think that there's a couple different, it is really tricky to play drums and sing. And I think it's why you don't see a lot of people. I think another aspect of it would be gain levels on, like, whether it be on stage.
Yeah.
Like it basically, like we're in such a time where audio is just always crushed. We always turn it up as loud as we can and like get as much as you can from everything. And typically drummers nowadays, and for the past 30 years, especially if you're part of Gen X and lower, you hit the drums as hard as you can. And if you watch a guy like Levon, he oftentimes avoided cymbals because even though he didn't hit the drums terribly hard, he still had to avoid cymbals when he sang because the cymbals are so dominant in with their frequencies that they just overtake the microphone. So that's why a lot of times you just don't end up seeing it, because if a drummer's hitting him so hard, then everything that he's hitting is just going to end up crushing that microphone.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I remember my drummer, one of my old drummers, Don Dixon. He played in a ska band. I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, but he would sing when he played drums, and he would go, like literally like this is really bright. Like a good solid 2 feet away from everything just to sing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The drummer in my band right now, we do a trio, and his name's Jimmy Molnar. He's a great drummer, great guy. He has the mic here and it's just on a swivel, and he just is. Yeah. He's basically drumming and then just moving it out of the way.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was not the most convenient way to do it, but
is Jeremy still playing bass with you?
No, I got a guy named Brock playing bass with me right now.
Oh, that's good, because I was going to ask you how you got a whole band with everybody with a J name.
Yeah,
initially.
Yeah. There's a lot of J's at one point.
Yeah, that was weird.
Interesting little pop trivia here for you. Just exactly what JJ was talking about. Just so you know, Dimitri, when Levon Helm plays Up on Cripple Creek, there's actually no crash cymbal in that song.
Are we just going to talk about the band?
Sure.
This whole time? I mean, we can.
We could switch from the band to the Leafs and just kind of do that.
Let's go back to the Toronto Maple Leafs. So back in 19... There it is, exactly. Bye, Derek. No, so actually, I did want to say, so just really quickly, I, years ago, talking about playing and singing, I used to play in a 9-piece funk band, and one of the songs that we used to do was, do you guys know the song Too Much by Dave Matthews Band?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I used to play and sing that.
Wow.
So, I used to play Carter Beauford parts and sing Dave Matthews, because I used to be able to like throw my voice to sound like him. Anyway, doesn't matter. So, JJ, as far as projects that are going on as of right now, back, I believe it was 2017, you had a fantastic record, and you kept getting compared to, two horrible people, Chris Stapleton and Bruce Springsteen. I mean, how does it feel to be compared to those two?
How did it brought down so low?
Like, ew. Seriously, you know? I mean, gosh.
It's totally, you know what it is? It's like, it's totally, it's depressing.
Sure
because
right.
I don't have anything. The quality of life I'm living right now is nothing like their quality of life.
Not yet, my friend.
Can they share a bit of it? Can they share a little bit here?
That's right. Not yet.
No, so, I'm pretty grateful for it, man. Springsteen. I love Springsteen so much. That's it for me, man. And Chris Stapleton's got a voice like the wind, so I'm going to take that all day long.
You have a voice like smoked, well-aged whiskey. And I like whiskey.
That's a really, really good analogy, Derek. That's very good.
You like that one?
So it was it was an EP back in 2017 that you had, right? And was that the record that was recorded between Toronto and Nashville?
Yeah, that ended up being a record called Something to Believe In that I released in 2017. And I recorded that at the Sound Emporium in Nashville, and then I did a bunch of work I did a bit more work in Toronto too, at a buddy's place.
Nice. Okay, Sorry, if you're not finished.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, so as far as your projects go now, like with the studio that you have at home, and we know that you have those wonderful KRK Rocket speakers because we saw them before. Do you do most of do you do most of the like sort of beds and like kind of like putting ideas together and things like that in your home studio?
We call
or
that
are you doing
pre-pro,
everything
Craig.
now?
Yeah, pre-pro, Craig.
Yeah, I do most of the pre-pro.
Thanks,
Okay, well, I think that part of the conversation. First off, though, these are VXT6s, not rockets.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so let's just get our. I
warm in here all of a sudden.
shit in the bed all fucking show, bud.
Yeah. Thanks, Derek. Thanks for pointing it out. You
No worries.
lousy
I'll
bastard.
close caption your pain any fucking day.
Nice, prick. All right.
I think that the truth is, I think that the conversation is that it's just changed a lot over the past 7 to 10 years how artists create music.
That's what I was wondering exactly. Yeah.
Like that record that I did in 2017, that had budget behind it. We went to the Sound Emporium in Nashville and we had some heavy hitters play on it. We had a guy named David Dorn playing keyboards, Michael Strang playing pianos. We had I'm drawing a blank, but he's the Near Z drummer. Near Z, remember that guy?
Course. Of course.
Near Z. I did a bunch of work with him, and he is such a great fellow. But
wow.
I done a record down there, and the pre-production was done extensively beforehand, and it was a big budget record. We went in there in a few days, we hammered out a record, and basically it was done. Mm-hmm. That doesn't really feel like that's a viable way to make music anymore. And that's the way people are making music. Like when I released that record in 2017, you bought each song for $1.49.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like artists were able, it was no money, but artists were able to make a little bit of money.
Yeah.
But by the time I released the record in 2020 called Fingers Crossed, it was just purely streaming.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now artists don't make any money.
Oh no, you make a 0.00635% per stream if you have over 1,000 streams.
1,000 streams, yeah.
Don't have over 1,000 streams, you get nothing.
So I think that comes into the conversation for me as somebody who has a dedication to creating music for a life. Like it doesn't look the way I expected it to look when I was younger, my career, but I'm pushing forward and still doing this. And I have a great community of people who do support me to do that. But so I am kind of forced to like do way more demoing at home. And so, like I do, my goal is to, I found when I went into studios, I say this, and I'm not trying to say this in a boastful way, because I don't actually feel this. Like I don't feel like I'm saying it from a prideful space. I would walk into studios and record my vocals, and too often engineers and producers would be like, "Oh my God, your voice sounds incredible." And I would be left going, yeah, it sounds good, but like, what are we doing to make it sound rather better or unique? What are we doing to push it a little bit? What are we going to make this? How are we going to make this sound better than just a guy who kind of sounds like a B version or a Canadian version of Chris Stapleton? Mm-hmm. And so my studio, the whole point of it for me really is to like learn how to track myself, learn how to track vocals properly. Too often I walked into studios and guys would just set up a mic and go, here's my best mic into this system, and I'm using my best plugin, and then there I'm off to the races. And I wanted to understand why vocals back in the day sounded way better than they do now. Why performances seem to be way cooler and way more emotional than they do now.
So your new album, Away Through Time, was recorded in Fort Langley, BC at Fort Records. Mm-hmm. And you had engineer and drummer Jay Stewart. So how does that experience compare with what you were just describing?
Yeah, well, so I'd worked on a couple records in 2020, I had released one right at the height of COVID, not on purpose, but it was like 2 weeks into COVID. We'd already announced the release, and we just kind of went with it, and that pretty much died. But I'd spent so much time in my studio, and so I kind of had a little bit of an idea of what I was looking for tonally, and I was learning how to convey that to people, which was always a bit of a struggle for me before. And so I've known Jay Stewart for probably about close to 20 years now. Jay's he's a fantastic drummer and has drummed on a lot of my stuff over the years. He had opened a studio and had recently gone through a wild experience in life, and had kind of come out the other side with a fresh dedication to create music. And
that was his studio in Fort Langley?
That was his studio, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Fort Langley is like this. You guys ever been to Fort Langley?
No.
So Fort Langley's like, it's just like this little like Hallmark town. It's like, it's like every Hallmark movie that you've ever had to watch in your life is probably filmed there. It's like this like cute little quaint little town.
Okay. They film a lot in North Bay, the Hallmark Channel.
Do they? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So like basically I had reached out to him and just said like, Jay, I have some songs that I wanted to get tracked and recorded, and I had some pretty specific demands about the tones I wanted, and Jay was able to do it and able to run down that journey, which was a real challenge for me to find people like that, because oftentimes I just found people just kind of record because they know how to use a DAW, and they just haven't spent enough time in the water actually learning how to properly gain stage and how to actually properly build a chain, a vocal chain for me. Mm-hmm. And so Jay was able to do that. And he's got a real strong attention to detail. He's got a real strong attention to detail. And I don't. I'm like ideas. Yeah. I'll move past things as quick as I can. So it's nice to work with somebody who like will actually work through details, mm-hmm. and like and be attentive to it.
Nice. Those are always good to have around. My wife is that for me. I'm like I'll throw like 20 zillion things at her, and so she'll start working on 20 zillion things, and then she'll come back and go, okay, I've done this. I'm like, I'm past that now. We're over here. She's like, but I've done all this work.
Yeah,
exactly.
So how do you think that your songwriting developed on a way through time? Like, what step do you think you took as a songwriter?
Sorry.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing for me. I had a little bit of a switch flipped for myself throughout COVID, where I actually just kind of realized that the better bet for me, I started to like really think about what it is I wanted to accomplish with music. I've always loved music. And like I said earlier on, like me playing songs and playing music has always just been the thing I do. But I was forced to kind of ask myself, like, what does that mean anymore? What does that look like in the future? And I kind of like, I answered the question to myself with this idea that like, I'm better to focus on writing songs that I like and and stories that I want to sing about, mm-hmm. than I am to try and hit a trend or a sort of like to catch something that's been like working in the pop world and be like, oh, this sounds really cool these days. I'm going to try and write a song like that new Taylor Swift song.
They catch that. They catch they catch that like instantly.
Yeah.
Like they're just
who's they, Derek?
Oh, the general public. Yeah. They, like fans and stuff, they spot that shit coming a mile off, and they're like, yeah, no, this guy's copying so and this is from this and this is from that, and I've watched so many bands where they've done that. I'm sorry, I don't mean to walk over your conversation, but I've seen so many bands that have done that, And even like even like ripping off people, right? Like just blatant rip-offs and stuff. And you're just because you're like, this sounds really great, and then you do it, and everybody they just eviscerate you. And then you're done.
Yeah. And I realized too, like all the times I've gone down to Nashville and worked down there, I've realized like there are people out there that are doing that, and they're really fucking good at it.
Yeah.
There are people down in Nashville who have spent their lives like working on their instruments, and they can copy and emulate any sound immediately, really quickly, and they know how to use the formula way better than I'll ever know how to use the formula for songwriting. And I kind of just realized that I was like, okay, well, if I'm not going to go do that, I better sit down and dig into like writing stories that actually matter to me, and writing about my community, and writing songs. Honestly, like I've been thinking about this, like my whole career, I've been thinking, I approach stuff like even something like this. My whole career, I've approached this like, what can you guys give me out of this? Mm-hmm. And I've learned, I don't know if we can't
give you anything. I'm sorry.
Damn it! Bye.
Sorry.
I have a bag of popcorn.
We got nothing.
Bag of popcorn that I will ship to your house. And you can have that.
Perfect. Sorry, JJ.
Honestly, like I just realized that my whole career, I approached everything like that. I approached what could I get out of it, and I've learned. And maybe it's just grown up. I'm just learning now that when it comes to creating art, it has to be about giving. Yeah, it has to be about providing value. Yeah. And if I'm not providing value, there are people out there who already do the fake thing really, 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 really fucking well, and let them do it.
Yeah.
I need to provide a value to you guys that makes this conversation, or that, that you know what I mean? Like I want my music to do that. I don't need anything in return, really. I'd like to pay my bills, but
no, exactly. Dude, yeah, fuck, this is awesome. All right, so we have to talk now about essentially the near future. So do you have gigs coming up? Like what's on the horizon?
Yeah, I've got gigs this summer coming up here, mainly around Western Canada. Working on we haven't announced it yet, but we're working on a tour in the fall across Canada, and it won't be
coming
in Toronto.
Coming out Doug Gilmour's way.
Yeah, we'll be out there for sure.
Nice.
It's actually been a while since I've played in Toronto, so
you're due.
I'm so excited for it, and I've got so many people that have been like, dude, when are you going to get back here?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to do something. My plan is to kind of treat it a bit more like kind of the same way I was just talking about the musical thing, like try and create an evening where I give as much value to the people that are there as possible. Like sing my ass off, make sure the music is so fucking good that they're like, holy shit, what did we just see? Mm-hmm. I feel enriched, like going back to one of the things that I use all the time is that the start of the Tragically Hip record, Live Between Us, that live record they did.
Yes, of course.
Where Gord walks out and he says, here's the real Statics. We're all richer having seen them tonight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I use that all the time as like my sort of like my barometer of everything I'm trying to do. Like, are you giving everybody some richness around you that's listening to your music? And are you,
That's beautiful. Yeah. That's beautiful. And I'll just say that that the stuff that I've heard from your new album, it can only come from you. The things that you're describing can only have been received through your eyes. American Accent. I have been talking with Craig about that song. It's just like the way that you describe that woman. Yeah. That's JJ Shiplett's perspective of this woman. It's just so unique, and that's like something like the greatest singer-songwriters throughout like the past several decades, like Gordon Lightfoot, like that, the stuff that he would write about, it's like that's a Gordon Lightfoot perspective that you're getting when you listen to his song,
Something to Believe In for me is just a fucking gorgeous piece, like seriously, man, you're a proper fucking singer-songwriter, like seriously.
Hey, thanks, man.
So honestly, we're honored to talk to you tonight. This has been fucking great. So
Yeah, no, those are some nice words. I'll take it all. I honestly my goal here is to try and write great songs. My goal, when I expire, I expect that my family and friends will be able to sit around for a long time and be like, oh, that's a lot of music we got to listen to. Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Which is actually which is the start of the record. The record's called A Way Through Time. And that was the whole premise of the idea. Was like my wife's dad passed away a couple years ago, and he left us a bunch of records. And it's like, well, we can sit down and we can listen to the records that he listened to and that he experienced for the first time. We throw on Revolver or something like that, and it's like we're listening to his copy of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, this was the record that he listened to when he got his mind blown.
Yeah.
And here we are 50, 60 years later, 70 years later, whatever it is, and getting our minds blown by the same music.
Yeah.
And different on vinyl than it is
on
streaming services that don't pay anybody. Fucking cunts.
No, and listen, I think every single person here at this virtual round table would certainly sing vinyl's praise. Absolutely, I would. If there's no other way to listen to music, as far as I'm concerned.
I just did a test pressing of A Way Through Time a couple days ago, and I was like, oh my God, I love listening. It was like I was listening to my music, and I was like, I like listening to this right now.
Yeah,
that's amazing, buddy. It's like Jack Black, I think, owns Third Man Records, if I'm not mistaken. He's like Jack White. Excuse me. Third Man Records, and he's all over just the indie scene. Like, you got something, bring it to us. We'll press it for you. And it's just it's so great to see vinyl, making that comeback. So.
For a second, you had me believing that Jack Black owned Third Man Records.
I was right there.
And I'm literally
really?
I'm literally picturing Jack White's face in my head, the dead leaves in the dirty ground. I'm literally looking at him singing it, and I said Jack Black. I don't know why. Right?
But then Jack White was in Jack. Yes, Jack White was in
the White Stripes.
He was in Jack Black was in High Fidelity working in a record store.
Correct. He was.
Oh yeah, he's he's the super pretentious record store worker.
And then my favorite part of that movie is when he turns on Katrina and the Waves, and he's like, ow, and he's like dancing in the store, and John Cusack is like, turn it off. Anyway, that's literally High Fidelity is literally one of my all-time favorite films. I can literally recite it. So
I enjoy the ritual of vinyl.
Yeah.
Not just listening to it, but the ritual of vinyl. Because if you do not go step by step in the ritual of vinyl, your vinyl will die, and then you won't get to listen to it anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I always like having people. I got quite a great record collection. Me and my wife said to her, we kind of made a deal with each other. It was like, instead of just getting each other, little lame gifts all the time, let's just put together a list of records we want, and let's just chip away at that list. Nice. And so we got quite a great collection. And I love having friends come over and being like, hey, it's up to you guys. Like, you go choose it. What do you want to listen to right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
It's always fun for people. It's good for me because it's like, you're not going to choose a record I don't like out of there. Like,
yeah,
There's
nothing here that I don't, want in my house.
Yeah. So we have
a friend in Belleville named Angus Barlow who DJs out of his garage, and he calls it the Vinyl Garage, and he pretty much has every single album that you can think of, like, in some of the weirdest stuff that he'll just pull out.
That's cool.
Oh boys, I could talk about vinyl all day long. So, JJ, what's next in the pipe, my friend? Can you give us an idea of like sort of dates or anything like that as to when the shows are going to start?
Yeah, starting June 29th, we start to hit the road. We're doing me and the boys in the trio are doing a bunch of days at a theater here in town. And we're going to film a bunch of it and rehearse. And then June 29th, we're playing a thing called the Ride to Remember out here, which is a fundraiser put on by another Western Canadian artist named Devin Cooper. And then we got the Stampede gigs and doing some country festivals out here, Big Valley Jamboree. There's not a lot of, I would consider my music Americana roots, but that's not really a thing in Canada. And so it's like kind of the country road is the space to go. And so playing some country festivals, which will be fun.
Yeah, I don't think I personally don't think that you fit neatly into any one box. Like I like it. I kind of like listening to A Way to Remember. I was thinking you kind of fit into that 70s singer-songwriter tradition to me. Like Lightfoot Mitchell, you know, and James Taylor even, you know. So
Joan Baez. Sorry.
That's 60s.
That was a hiccup.
So shut up.
I just like being obnoxious. Sorry.
But yeah,
it's my job.
But I do think like looking at, well, we keep mentioning Chris Stapleton because people did slot him into the country box, but he doesn't fit neatly into that because he's got like blues influences in his sound and everything. He's pretty much a singer-songwriter just doing what he does. And the thing is now you hear him on indie rock stations.
What indie rock stations are you listening to?
I indie rock stations, you know?
Okay.
It's like, it's one of those things that I think that people have, there's always a strong desire for like to classify things, right? And music has always needed that because it's needed to be able to organize everything on shelves and everything. But like none of us listen to one style of music anymore. We're all jumping around. But I think that country.
I'm sorry, I just.
I play the accordion, Derek.
I know you do. Anyway, JJ was talking, and
So I think that it's an interesting thing that like genres are pretty irrelevant these days, but the industry needs them to be able to put things in its place. In Canada, there is like in my mind, it's called Americana. It's what it is. It's like it's Americana. It's a little bit of roots. It's a little bit of blues. It can have some rock and roll in there. It can have some country in there. But the form is on the songwriting. But the songwriting doesn't have to necessarily be the formula used in the songwriting isn't a certain way. It can be manipulated in the way you need it to be. Whereas in pop country music, you kind of need to use what they're expecting to be able to get it to go to another level. Chris Stapleton shows up, and I'm not saying I understand this all fully, but Chris Stapleton shows up, and then Sturgill Simpson shows up, and Jason Isbell, and
Noah Kahan. Noah Kahan's another one, you know.
Well, and I think that's kind of a classic. Like it comes down the pipe as like there needed to be somebody like Chris Stapleton who stood up and said like, hey, this style of songwriting and singing and performance and musical creation is really fucking important that it gets its due. And so then he kind of got his foot in the country door, but then there's a whole industry below him. There's Tyler Childers who's out playing arenas around Canada, you know, but nobody else is playing arenas in Canada really. Especially if you came on the scene in the past 6 years, nobody's playing arenas. You know, so like there's SG Goodman, there's Noah Kahan, there's all these artists that are coming up and like that are actually Americana artists that in America there is a route for them to go, and there's radio stations that'll play that style of music. There's like tour routing that you can do. There's, you know, like it exists down there, but in Canada it doesn't exist right now. And it's a really painful thing for an artist like myself. Anybody else who's in my style of music, Americana, rather has to shift over completely to country or completely ignore a Canadian scene like Coulter Wall. You know, like Donovan Woods. I was just going
to bring him up.
You know, Corb Lund. You know, like these are Corb Lund and Coulter Wall are two Western Canadian staples who have massive careers, but where do they play when they come to Canada? When they come back to play Canada, it's like it gets pretty dicey pretty quickly for them.
Wow.
Coulter's
and so
got a great voice. Holy cow!
he's got a great voice, and he can go to America and he can play anywhere he wants to.
Yep.
He just chooses where he wants to play. And but he has nothing to do with the Canadian music industry, really. And I don't mean that as a shot to him.
No.
Because I think he's done what he's had to do, and it's worked out incredibly. And I'm in my career trying to find similarities that I can use and see if I can follow his path at all.
Yeah.
But for me, like being on Canadian as fuck, like I've only ever loved Canadian music. That's what I grew up listening to. Our Lady Peace, and Sam Roberts is my favorite. Kathleen Edwards is my favorite. This is what I've always loved. And so I want a career here, and I want to come to Toronto. I want to go tour the East Coast, and I've been fortunate enough to build so many great relationships around Western Canada that I plan on nurturing and growing. But
and you mentioned the Stampede. Have you played the Stampede before?
Oh yeah. The Stampede is like if you're a Western Canadian musician, the Stampede is where you make money.
Okay.
There's always corporate parties to play. There's always there's things to do. There's gigs to be played and money to be made. I got buddies who a great player out here, Mitch J, who's played with everybody in Canadian country music. His 10 days is 2-3 gigs a day, just gig, jumping around and making money.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Nice. Well, that's decent.
And then after that, maybe the Calgary Flames home opener.
I'm coming for George Canyon's job as the Flames anthem singer.
Just to bring it back to hockey.
What are you going to do if it's like a Calgary Flames and Leaf game?
I hate the Flames.
Okay.
Honestly, I've thought about it before. What would happen, and
it's aggressive.
It's a 2 week span. It's a 2 week one thing. The Stanley Cup would be 2 weeks. I'd just be going out to Toronto for 2 weeks.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say, I think Albertans are going to ask for your driver's license back.
Yeah. No, are you kidding me? There's half the people here are from Ontario anyway.
That's true. That's true. That is true. Brother, thank you so much for joining us tonight, man. This has been a freaking awesome conversation.
Now, it really has.
I need you to do me a huge favor. That the boys are going to make fun of me in regards to this, and that's totally fine. I don't give a shit because Derek makes fun of me all the time. Can I get you to do me a huge favor? We asked our friend Iskway to do this, and she was like, yep, no problem. Can you do me a favor and say, hey, this is JJ Shiplett, and you're listening to Revolution Radio Canada?
All right. Hey, this is JJ Shiplett, and you're listening to Revolution Radio Canada.
Perfect.
One take wonder.
Right? Yeah. We had to Esquay had to do it 3 times.
She did.
I'll make fun of him for that.
I'm just saying.
At the end of it, she was like, "Did it Revolution Radio Canada?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're in Canada.
We're in Canada.
this is Canadian as fuck that you're on right now."
It was great. It was great.
That's awesome. Okay, JJ, brother, thank you so much, man. Just wondering if you could do us, a favor and just let us know about the tune that we're going to play for the people here tonight.
Yeah, this song's called "Reckless Heart," and I'd read a Kurt Vonnegut quote about being reckless with your love, and I kind of twisted the interpretation a little bit, but what he was saying. But my idea here was to write a song about being similar to what we were talking about giving more. The idea is to be kind of a foolish abandonment of what holds you back, and just give as much love as you can. Be reckless with your love. Awesome. Because it's the kind of the journey of life, and those are the stories that we tell when we give people our sort of everything we have.
Mm-hmm. Dude, when you're starting to quote Kurt Vonnegut, then you're just awesome. I mean, that's all I have to say, really, at the end of the day.
Because he wasn't awesome before that point.
Yeah, but even
I've covered all the bases here.
Awesomer. Is that a word? Awesome.
Leafs, leave on helm, Kurt Vonnegut. Yeah. We're good.
Done. And good. Mic drop. Exactly. Dude, thanks again so much for being here, man. We really appreciate it. Thank you, JJ.
Thank you to you guys.
The track is called Reckless Heart. It is the latest from our new best friend here, JJ Shiplett, is on Canadian as Fuck, episode 91. You're listening to Revolution Radio Canada. Thanks again, brother. Loving those piano skills.
The day I was born, you could feel a little rumble. The dog cried out, oh God, I think this one's trouble. Better use your sense and heed all the stories. The deeper the red, or the deeper the longing. I got an old guitar from my Uncle Richie. He played in the band and he had a pretty old lady. But when you're out running wild, there's one thing I know for certain. You gotta give it all away to make it count for something. And with a reckless heart, and never been afraid of the dark, and even with a million little parts, everyone's been marked. With a reckless heart, under the arms with the wild rose, she slowly meets your eyes and takes off all her clothes. Where do you go when you're asleep and dreaming? And do you see me there, or is it all just a fleeting? Everyone's been marked, yeah, with a reckless heart. Yeah, with a reckless heart, I'll never be afraid of the dark. And even with a million little parts, everyone's been marked. Oh, with a reckless heart. And so you cross the lines, thinking that's color. It's leaving pieces behind you with all your ex-lovers. And now all that is left is just a constant reminder to give it all away to make it count for something. You gotta give it all away to make it count for something. With a reckless heart, yeah, with a reckless heart, yeah, reckless heart.
Revolution Radio Canada, once again, thank you so much, brother. We
so
greatly
good.
appreciate you being here, man. That was fucking amazing. I'm actually going to play another one of your tunes, by the way, just so you know, before the end of the night, okay? We definitely want to hear from you again. You are awesome. Again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, and a huge thank you to our best friend, Beth, from What's the Story? And I got it right this time.
Good job, buddy.
Charlotte?
Derek, shut up.
What about Charlotte?
Stop. Dimitri, stop it. You're going to get me in more trouble than I'm already in. Beth, we love you. Anyway, JJ, thanks again, man. We appreciate you. Have a great night, okay?
All right, man.
You
Take
bet.
care, bud.
Take care, brother. Thank you.